Let's do it. Let's do it. All right, we'll be talking about episode 32, Greetings. This will be our first Pat Benetar misheard song lyric. The correct song lyric for this song is Hit me with your best shot. And the misheard lyric is Hit me with your pet shark, which is hilarious because if you listen to the real song and the real lyrics, it really does sound like she's saying pet shark. And it's Shark Week. So perfect timing. So the song is one of Benetar's most recognizable tracks and a very popular karaoke song. And usually when it's being sung at karaoke, it's either a nubile young karaoke singer that has a little too much to drink, maybe some liquid courage to shakily sing it out there with some gusto, or it's a seasoned vet that obviously has sung it many a times in her life, so much so that they're not even looking at the lyrics, they are singing it all by heart, living every line, and with their eyes closed. So a little bit more about the song. So Hit Me With Your Best Shot is a song recorded by American rock singer Pat Benatar and written by a gentleman by the name of Eddie Schwartz. In 1980, it was released as the second single from her second album, Crimes of Passion. It reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming Pat Benatar's first top 10 hit. I didn't know that. Hit Me With Your Best Shot well, Hit Me With Your Best Shot sold well over 1 million copies in the U.S., achieving a gold certification by the RIAA. Let's talk about Pat Benatar. Let's know about her a little bit. So her official name is Patricia May Giraldo, or Geraldo. I guess it's Giraldo. She's married to her lead guitarist. Her former name prior to Giraldo is, before her married, was Andrzejewski when she was a young lady. She was born January 10th, 1953, but she's known by all of us and beloved as Pat Benatar. That's how we all know her. And again, American singer, songwriter, actress, and 4-time Grammy Award winner. She has 2 RIAA certified multi platinum albums, 5 platinum albums, 3 gold albums, and 15 Billboard Top 40 singles, including the top 10 hits Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Love is a Battlefield, love that video, We Belong, and Invincible. She was also just recently nominated for a 2020 induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I haven't heard yet if she's made it, but at least she's been nominated to be a part of it. So let's talk about how she started. I mean, I only knew just bits and pieces about her. That someone said she was an opera singer prior to becoming discovered, but who really is Patricia May Andrzejewski, now as we know as Pat Benatar? So she was born again on January 10th, 1953 in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, New York City. So she's a New York gal through and through. Her mother, named Mildred, was a beautician, and her father, Andrew, which is interesting, his name was Andrew Andrzejewski, was a sheet metal worker. So she came from humble beginnings. Her father was of Polish descent, makes sense with the last name, and her mother was of German, English, and Irish ancestry. She and her family moved to North Hamilton Avenue in a place called Lindenhurst, New York, a village in Long Island town of Babylon. So for those of you in that area or from that area, hey, it's a big shout out. Benatar became interested in theater and began voice lessons, singing her first solo at the age of 8. So I just imagine little Pat Benatar at age 8 at a elementary school by the name of Daniel Street Elementary School. And the song she actually sang was called It Must Be Spring. How adorable is that? And then she went to a high school named Lindenhurst Senior High School from 1967 and 1971 and was very active in their musical theater. I'm not surprised. She also trained as a coloratura, which she planned to attend the Juilliard School, but decided instead to pursue her health education at a local university called Stony Brook University. What could have come if maybe she did go to Juilliard? Would she have still had the same path? And so I thought, what is coloratura? So it's Italian. It comes from the literal meaning of coloring. And it says here in Wikipedia, when used in English, the term specifically refers to an elaborate melody, particularly in vocal music, and especially in an operatic singing of the 18th and 19th centuries with runs, trills, wide leaps, or similar virtuoso-like material, which makes sense because she has a very big range and just an amazing range. So that's why that's how she's trained. And then at 19, while she was at Stony Brook, she actually dropped out when she met her first husband, high school sweetheart, or actually went at 19, after 1 year at Stony Brook, she dropped out to marry her first husband, high school sweetheart Dennis Benetar. There's where she gets the Benetar last name. He was a U.S. Army draftee who trained at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, then served with the Army Security Agency at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, before stationing at Fort Lee, Virginia, where he remained on duty for 3 years. And I just can't imagine this, but at that time, Pat Benatar worked as a bank teller near Richmond, Virginia. And you got to do what you got to do to pay the bills, right? And then in 1971, Benatar quit her job to pursue her singing career after being inspired by attending a Liza Minnelli concert she saw in Richmond. Thank goodness, because again, what would have happened if she didn't pursue it? We wouldn't have all these amazing songs and know about the awesome voice of Pat Benatar. She then got a job as a singing waitress at a nightclub named the Roaring Twenties, and then got a spot singing in the lounge band called Coxon's Army, and was a regular at a place called Sam Miller's Basement Club. Now, the band was the subject of, I guess, a never aired PBS special, and the bassist Roger Capps was later the original bass player for the Pat Benatar band, so there's a lot of connection there. And then what happened was she then performed at Amateur Night in 1975 at a comedy club called Catch a Rising Star in New York. And she did a rendition of Judy Garland's, which is interesting because of Liza Minnelli. Judy Garland, there's a connection there. Judy Garland's Rockabye Your Baby with a Dixie Melody, and earned a callback by club owner Rick Newman, who then became her manager. So I looked up Catch a Rising Star and wanted to know more about this place that helped found her, and it's actually pretty famous. It's a chain of comedy clubs founded in New York City back in December of 1972 by Rick Newman, who we now know became her manager. The original club was in New York City and was notable for its role in starting many careers of famous singers and comedians. So many of them, I guess, enjoyed later success in television, theater, and film. Among them, of course, is Pat Benatar, we now know, but Billy Crystal, Robin Williams, Jerry Seinfeld, Andy Kaufman, and Eddie Murphy, to name a few. There's several other names, but that's just a few famous names that came out of this Catch a Rising Star comedy club. And now that the original club has since gone out of business, but I guess there's some iterations of it in other locations. Its former location was on First Avenue between East 78th Street and East 77th Street. And right now it's occupied by a real estate agency called Prince Properties. So just something to know about if you had frequented this club back in the 70s, 60s, 80s, that's what happened to it. And then back in Halloween in 1977 was a very, very famous night for her, or for Benatar's early, what they called spandex stage persona. She loved her spandex. She actually entered a Halloween costume at the Cafe Figaro in Greenwich Village, dressed as a character from the film Cat Women of the Moon. I don't know what that is, but it sounds amazing. And later that evening, she went on stage at Catch a Rising Star, still in costume, with spandex, which became her kind of signature look in the 80s. And between appearances at Catch a Rising Star, she recorded commercial jingles for Pepsi Cola and a number of regional brands. So the girl was working hard for her money and just trying to get her foot in the door to get people to notice that voice. So then let's fast forward. She has a first single called If You Think You Know How to Love Me. And I'm like, have you heard about it? I've not, obviously. It was released on September 14th, 1979. And of course, to no surprise, it was unsuccessful. That's why I've never heard of it. Probably you haven't. And again, it's called If You Think You Know How to Love Me. Then Pat Benatar came out with her second single, Heartbreaker. And we all know that. I love that. I've done that karaoke, and it's a fun one, especially with karaoke with the live band, Karaoke from Hell. And it was released on October 26, 1979, and became a hit. So that was the first hit. Climbing to number 23 in the U.S., third single, We Live for Love, which was actually written in 1979. We Live for Love, which was written by her future husband, Neil Giraldo. At that time, they weren't married. And it was released in February of 1980 and reached U.S. 27. So she's hovering in the 20s right now in the charts. Then, in August of 1980, Benatar released her LP, Crimes of Passion, featuring her signature song, Hit Me With Your Best Shot. and along with that controversial song, Hell is for Children. Hell is for children. And I've sang that song a couple times too. It's a weird song, and now I know what the inspiration is. Apparently, Pat Benetar was reading a series of articles in the New York Times about child abuse in America, and she wrote Hell is for Children. So if you didn't know that, now you know. Okay, so then Hit Me With Your Best Shot comes along. It hits number 9, so top 10 in the US charts. Again, her first single to break the top 10 and sold more than 1 million copies, gold status in the US. I mean, she's got to be riding high right now. And then the album peaked for 5 consecutive weeks at number 2 in the US in January 1981, behind, get this, John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Double Fantasy. Okay? And eventually sold over 5 million copies. And a month later, Benatar won her first Grammy Award for Best Female Rock Vocal Performance of 1980 for the album. Way to go, way to go. That's a girl. And the album was produced by Keith Olsen. Again, the album Crimes of Passion remained in the U.S. charts for 93 weeks and in the top 10 for more than 6 months. So it was a staple in the 80s and eventually becoming the first platinum performance or platinum certification by the RIAA. And then in October 1980, Benatar, along with her future husband Neil Giraldo, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, appeared on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. The album was certified at this time 5 times platinum in Canada. Her best selling album in that country, where it peaked at number 2 on the album charts. So here's the interesting thing about. Then I thought about, what is this song about? You know, the title itself is "Hit Me with Your Best Shot." You listen to the lyrics. I've sang the lyrics many times. Many interpretations out there. I did some scouring on the internet. Lots of the same point of view of, it's a woman who's willing to take her chance on a well-known male heartbreaker. That's what she's like. You know, pretty much, hit me with your best shot. Let me see if I can take it. But the one that intrigued me the most of interpretations was on a site called songmeanings.com. So look it up, because there's tons of journal entries in there of what people think songs are about. And you don't know who it is because people use a username. So someone back on November 29th, 2011, by the username of Fish Out of Water 81, and if this is you and you're hearing this, Fish Out of Water 81, contact us at misheard songs, SONGS, at gmail.com. We love to hear about it. But this is what he or she wrote. Quote unquote, they think the interpretation is, quote unquote, the only purpose the song serves is to make a great night out with girls at a karaoke bar. In the best way she could, I feel as if she was hinting that she is gay in the first line of the song, where it says, well, you're a real tough cookie. Don't know many men that would be referred to by a woman as a real tough cookie. I think Pat was reliving her story of her first lesbian experience and how different it was from that of any male relationships she had in the past. Interesting. The tough cookie putting another notch in my lipstick case is almost emphasizing her femininity, which in fact was the polar opposite of who she was on stage and in her actual life. I feel by her emphasizing the lipstick was almost saying that she was the femme in this relationship and threatening her female companion that she was now comfortable with the whole lesbian experience and was more than willing to leave her first experience and go for another woman. By referring to this woman as a real tough cookie, the woman probably knew she was Pat's first woman experience and had that dominance over her head. But after she sees that Pat was starting to come out of her shell, thus the before I put another notch in my lipstick case, you better make sure you put me in my place. Fish Out of Water 81, interesting, intriguing. I can kind of see that. Pat Benatar will be the only one, and Eddie Schwartz will ever know, because when I looked that up of what their interpretation, they're saying cheekily, oh, they attended a pillow fight contest, and that's what the impetus of the song. But I'm loving this interpretation. So if you have any suggestions or interpretations, please share it with us at misheard songs. That's MISS heard, HEARD songs at gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And so that's about it. It's not about a song about being hit by a pet shark, because, those sharks are endangered. Be careful. We love our pet sharks, especially baby sharks. And it's about whatever you think it is. But I hope you enjoyed I hope you enjoyed the misheard song today and learned something. I did. I had no idea, especially about the Liza Minnelli inspiration. And a little bit more about Miss Pat Benatar, or A.K. Miss Pat Giraldo. So have a good week. We'll talk to you next week with another funny misheard song lyrics, and